All right, we are live. I always forget, still, every time, how long that intro song is.
I know, you just get so into it, and you're like vibing. I got you. I totally feel. But yeah.
So, welcome everybody to another edition of our live interviews. We are here with Lance of Kulcha Shok Muzik. Lance, thank you for coming on with us.
Woo.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I don't seem like the traditional interviewee.
Okay.
We have a very, very wide range audience and a wide range of music that we promote, so you fit right in.
Oh, okay. Because every time I seem to go on the site, it's some harder rock.
Yeah, it's like the pop punk. I feel like
it is a strong suit of ours, but the reggae rock scene is definitely something that we hold true to our hearts.
I feel like that happens though with whenever we interview someone, like whenever we have like a pop punk or like a hard rock person, they're like, I feel like we always see like reggae people, and then it's like the opposite when we have like reggae people. It's like, don't just like pop punk people. Like, do you even like enjoy reggae jam bands? I'm like, we do, I promise.
Isn't that Murphy's Law?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you are one of the members of Kulcha Shok Muzik. Can you you can do it better than we can. Can you explain a little bit as to what Kulcha Shok is?
You know, I get the question a lot, and it's for some reason it's not completely obvious. But the bottom line to Kulcha Shok is everything we do is about promoting reggae music. You know, even if it's, you know, we sponsor surfers, we sponsor skaters, we sponsor a lot of people in extreme sports, but that's also to reach that audience, to bring reggae to that audience. But basically, it's like I said, it's to promote reggae. You know, me personally, I'm a DJ. That's where my career pretty much. I mean, it really started in radio, but it was almost simultaneous because it felt like as soon as I went on radio, I was being called, asked to DJ. And, you know, and then I became an MC. And through all that, I kind of became a promoter of doing shows. You know, I mean, even the brand, we have a brand, and it kind of like organically grew out of the support we were getting. And now we're a brand, and that's still ultimately just to promote reggae.
Right.
So the bottom line is it's about promoting reggae.
That's awesome.
I looked through the website, and it was, I mean, I think it was like one of the first lines right at the top of your page where it was all about the reggae music. But I found it, I like that you referenced everything you do, because I found it so interesting that there are like so many different avenues that Kulcha Shok travels down, between your promoting of shows, you're putting on and hosting events, the surfing. What was the kind of the catalyst that pushed you to not just doing shows, but starting to do all the extreme sports and the things that didn't necessarily pertain to music?
Well, that's because I'm an avid surfer.
Okay.
I love surfing as much as I do reggae. And, you know, it's become one of my biggest audiences. You know, I pretty much paddle out at any break in Florida and feel like I know everybody. You know, and then I also get a very warm reception most of the time. So it's just, you know, I grew up kind of around surfing, and music were always pretty intricate parts of my life. And I wanted, because I love each of them so much, I wanted to bring each to the other. Right. And reggae fits well with surfing, and surfing fits in with reggae. You know, it's changed a bit musically. The taste in general of surfers has definitely broadened, and I think that's happened with everybody in general. But, you know, that kind of laid back islandy vibe just kind of most of the time goes with surfing. You know, in the 80s, it was very aggro. It was very punk. And I grew up in that era too. You know, that's when I was really started surfing, and kind of my more, you know, teenage years. So they were very influential. I mean, at heart, I'm still a punk rocker too. So, you know, I love I love all the old school punk rock, from Adolescents to Agent Orange to Bad Brains to, Operation Ivy
Yeah. Wow.
to
Cool.
some stuff you probably don't even know, because I always worked in radio and I worked in college radio. So I found like some of the greatest bands that still never really went anywhere. There was
Right.
a band out of Texas called Evan Johns and the H-Bombs were just phenomenal. That's just an example, but so it's just my love for the both is what it really comes down to.
That's
I
great.
like that you referenced all those punk rock bands. That was like a question I was going to ask you for later. Was did you have any other music that influenced you besides reggae? So is that how you kind of got into the reggae scene? I mean, I'm thinking.
No, it's weird. There was really, I mean, the main influence was my uncle when I was a little kid. When I was like, I think 11, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there, I was living with him and he was working with Peter Tosh at the time. And Peter Tosh was one of the original Wailers. And that was the time when Bob, Bunny, and Peter all went solo. And Bob formed the new band and the Wailers. Some of the guys stayed that were in there, like Secco, and, because he played keys, because, Bob played guitar, Peter played guitar, and Bunny pretty much sang, and Bunny and Peter might play percussion, but, there were drummers, there were keyboard players, there was a bass player, so there was all this other stuff. And, there were the I3s came in, but that was the time that I really got influenced by reggae. I remember the first reggae song I ever heard was Legalize It from Peter Tosh. And I was just blown away. I was like, what in the hell is this? I was like, this is completely different than anything I've ever heard. And I was like enthralled, like almost hypnotized. And my uncle had the record, like, we're playing an LP, and the record sleeve had all the songs and all the words. And I used to just sit there. I would be listening to the album, singing every word. And I can avidly remember watching the Olympics and just like being in heaven. You know what I mean? Like just listening, reading, and watching. Just like, I think it was like, that was a little later on after I'd already known the album, but that had to be like 76, or it couldn't have been the 80. Mm-hmm. It had to be 76 because they all broke up around 74, 75. So it was like, that was my real introduction, and one thing that strengthened it later on was ska. Okay. Because I really got exposed to more non-Jamaican ska when I was in college. I think just before I went to college, so I found out about the Specials, and and then I got into Fishbone, and then I got into the Toasters, and Bim Scala Bim, and Plate of Shrimp, and we had one or two around that, and then it was just like, I went crazy with ska. Like I was buying any vinyl record I could find that was ska. And like, I have there was this compilation series that ended up being really good that I can't remember, but there was that New York ska compilation that was great. But then there was this compilation out of Europe that had like all kinds of bands, German bands, Italian bands. And, I cherish all my ska records to the fullest. I wish back then I had bought more of the traditional old school 45s, because I would love to do that. I just don't have enough to play all that stuff on vinyl, right. But if I were to do it again, that would be the one thing I'd change in my collection is what I got. Because now some of them records are worth hundreds of dollars,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I'd be selling them, but it's like I can't go back and buy them now. It's,
Yeah, they're like they're priceless now, essentially.
yeah.
So,
So I mean,
but
that's really the full gamut of how reggae came, because it kind of, like when I got into ska, it kind of strengthened. It just reinforced my love for reggae and strengthened it, and it took me back to the Scatolites and Prince Buster and Derek Morgan, because I started in the '70s, so to speak, listening to reggae, and ska went back to the early '60s, so it was like I was just trying to find reggae, and then after a couple years then finding ska, I kind of went backwards, and then I went back forward again. So it's always a learning experience. It's like I scour the internet every day whenever I have time, and all I do, if I ain't surfing, I'm looking for new music.
Right.
That's literally what I do. A couple of other responsibilities that I have, but that's I put all my time into it, and I've never really told anybody about it, but it's hard to tell somebody how much time I put into it.
mhm.
It's really all I do. I mean, I love it. I still love it to this day, and I love finding that diamond in the rough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the best, and the greatest part is that when you have one of those and you have outlets to expose it, that you were the one that exposed it to your audience and your people, and they're like, wow, yeah, and
Mhm.
and and that's the real joy.
Yeah.
You know what
100%.
I mean?
Yeah.
When people love the music that you expose them to and they hadn't heard of it and they really like it, and and I probably push sometimes a little too hard. You know what I mean? But because I just I have a philosophy that it's like, we can't keep playing Bob Marley all day every day. We need like 50 more Bob Marleys.
Right.
And I mean, there'll never be another Bob Marley, but you get my point. And it's just
Mhm.
like, so I'm always trying to expose that next band or that next artist, and
Mhm.
so I mean, I could sit here and talk about just that all day long, but
Mhm.
we won't unless
Yeah.
you want.
No, it's awesome to like talk to someone else who's also like really passionate about their music and like just being able to find the diamond in the rough and being able to share it with everyone. Like it's awesome to hear someone else have a big passion for music and like finding the new like I don't like comparing like musicians to like previous artists. Like I feel like there are artists that do pave their own path and like start a revolution in music, but it's awesome being able to like find it and then be able to share it though. So that's awesome and inspiring. So that's awesome.
I was gonna say, I that definitely, that resonated with me a lot because that's literally what we do, right? The after hours is to spread new music. So when you said sometimes you feel like you do it too much, I feel like we do it too much all the time because that's all we do as well. I mean, we're looking for the next best thing. I mean, and of course we throw on like all older stuff, and we tip our hats to all the bands that have given inspiration to all these new bands. But you're spot on. I don't think there's a better feeling than when you know that you spread new music to somebody.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool.
Definitely awesome.
Actually, we have I hate saying friend of the pod, but they are kind of a friend of the podcast. But I noticed that you were friends with some of our friends, called Oogie Wawa, and I was curious to see how you got connected with them and all that.
How did I get connected with them? I can't remember exactly how, but I think it was because they were coming to Florida.
Hmm.
And a lot of times new bands always call me. I always try to, because like I'll always book them like bands that I like for a show that I'll do. And then what I try to do is, in order to make it worth them to come to Florida and help encourage them, is I usually try to book other shows. And I mean, I have a booking agency license, talent agent license, so it's legitimate. I'm not just doing favors, but that way it makes it worth them for them to come. And anybody that I like, I try to build a market down here for them. And it's like with Oogie, it's what I like about them is honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not a big fan of rap. Okay. And Jake is a rapper. But they do it, he does it very well with reggae. And I can tell you there's only two bands that I like that do it like that. It's them and the Late Ones. And it's impressive. I will say the least. And the thing about it is, when I heard them, it was like, okay, it took a little while, but I liked them enough to say, yes, I will help them. But they've grown on me over the years. And I think with, I forget the other singer's name, and it seems like the band has changed a little bit. I might not even have the right singer, but one of the singers has always been a nice balance between the rap and the singing.
Right. So Nick does the lead vocals and Jesse does the rapping.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So the thing is, it's like, if you don't like the rap, it's tolerable enough to get to the singer, and vice versa. But if you like both, then it's heaven.
Right. But it's like your thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And which is also, it's also very popular what they're doing in traditional or predominantly traditional Jamaican reggae. They always had a singer and kind of what they call a DJ. We know them as rappers, so to speak. Not a DJ as like a selector that I might DJ. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, that's a very thing. And it's like, it's grown on me over the years, like I said. And, I don't mean to get off subject, but dude, that new album is fire.
Yeah.
That's totally on topic. That's fine. we thought the same thing.
I was going to ask you to say, that was going to be my next question. What did you think of the new album? I love it.
And I'll tell you, it's, you can see some maturity, you can see growth.
Absolutely.
You can see, like, not only in their ability to play their instruments and their singing, but their songwriting. This album is really, I really hope this makes them get over the top and shine like they should, because and those guys are so fun and great live and just to hang out with. They're good guys. I mean, I love them. Chad's a wild man, and I love him for it. But they've always had a great group of guys. The ones that I've met, Jesse and Chad have always been the two that have been with the band for the longest, for sure. Mm-hmm. I would do anything for those guys if I could. Whatever they need, I would help them out in any way. And we've done not only shows that I've done in Florida, but we've done several other shows together. So it's nice to see them in other places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that you talked about. You can see like the growth in their new album, because even just like the lyrical content, the topics that they're willing to hit that they don't necessarily hit. A lot of their previous releases were more like party songs. Maybe is a nice way to put it. Or I'm trying to think of a better way to describe it than that. But in this one, it still has that party vibe, even though they're touching on topics of necessarily depression or self-doubt and all those things. But they're still putting it in this almost upbeat way, where even if you're hearing that content and it typically would make you feel one certain way, right? The instrumentals totally uplift you, even while you're listening to content that might not necessarily uplift you if it was from a different band. If that makes sense, the way I
totally. I'm with you on that. I mean, there's nothing really more I could say to what you just said, because it's exactly how I feel. And it's nice to see that. There's always, as a listener, and we're all listeners, we just are on a different level as a listener, so to speak. But there's always expectations, even if it's very minimal. And on this record, the expectations were definitely superseded. They went above and beyond what they've done in the past, especially on a collection as this album is, because they have other great songs and they have other albums that are good. But this album just shows, as a collection, as an album, because that's what an album is. It's a collection of songs.
Right.
They would have to probably put 2 or 3 albums together to get the strength in this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree with that.
They have older songs like Jump is great, but it's kind of gives you that party vibe, and there's definitely others, So there's just, and I love the one they talk about with the sharks and that's kind of like the title track. It's like just show the way they use sharks and what it means in the song is nice to hear, because it really ends up having a dual meaning.
Yeah.
And that's always brilliant songwriting to me, when you can get 2 meanings out of one thing. And that is something that some of the best have hard times doing, but some of the best songs ever written are in that kind of format, in my opinion.
It also, I feel like it also gives a different, I don't want to say meaning, but I feel like there's like some misconceptions about reggae and how it's all about like smoking ganja or like whatever. But I think with that album specifically, it's like, it can be serious. It can talk about, hard hitting topics. It can talk about different meanings and like double entendres. So that album, I think, gives like a different meaning to like reggae's and like reggae jam funk and all that. So it's cool. So it's not all about smoking ganja or like drinking weed all that.
I think that misconception is an American misconception for the most part.
Exactly.
But you have to remember, reggae came out of the ghettos of Kingston, Jamaica, and it was about having a voice for the underclass, the oppressed, the sufferers. So it's always been a song about oppression and revolution and going against the system and, wanting to create a revolution. That's what it's always been, and then the ganja thing is really comes from the sacrament of Rastafarianism. That's what it really is. So they see all these Rastas smoking ganja, so that's what they think it's all about. And in a way it is, but it isn't in the way that they see smoking ganja.
Right.
It's more, it has a religious, without it really being a formal religion, and it's not anything formally religious, but so people understand it is like a religion. And this is part of their sacrament.
Right.
And ganja takes them to that place that they feel that they say, in their words, it's called Satamasagana, which is that place of peace, that place of tranquility, that place of ease. That's where you're one with yourself and one with everybody around you. People here, it's a different society. Jamaica has the stresses of just struggling every day. We have the struggles, there's just a lot more stress here. And people think about it, they're probably getting high just to get rid of the stresses, and they go through that too, but it's a little bit deeper for them. You know what I mean? It's easy to misconceive, but it is a misconception, and I'll tell you this, everybody thinks I'm the biggest ganja smoker in the world, and I don't even smoke ganja anymore.
And you're like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Like I've had people like want to like beat me up because I said, I don't smoke weed. They're like, you're a liar, man. Why are you lying?
You're a poser.
And I'm just like, hey, Can't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, I don't know. It's hard to talk. It's hard to say that about you because it's like you speak so passionately about like the genre and the culture that it's hard to speak negatively about that. You know, it's just that's wild to me. Be like, oh,
No, I'm not going to speak negative about it. No, you know what I mean. But it's been negative into the sense that people's perspective of me thinking that it's automatic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And you know, and to be perfectly honest, you see, anything I do is 150%. And when I smoke ganja 200%. Okay, so it's too much. I'm too much or nothing.
I am too extra.
You know what I'm saying? I've got one of those addictive personalities, extreme personalities. I'm either all in or you can't get a dime out of me. You understand?
Exactly. What was it? Oh, speaking of, I know we touched on Oogie Wawa a while ago, but they're here now saying
What?
We're here. Yes, they're right there. I don't know if you can see in the comment down there.
Oh yeah.
He says,
Yeah,
"Lamb, bless my brother."
Yeah,
So,
man.
Yeah, I tapped them before. I was like, he's saying nice things about you. Come here. Like, let's go.
Well, he knows they know I say nice things about him.
Yeah.
They know how much I love him.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I don't know if we actually mentioned it. Where did the actual name Kulcha Shok come from? I mean, I know we've talked about the roots of why you started, but how did you coin the name?
Well, you know what's funny? There actually is a little story behind it. It's an interesting one as well. You know, I came up with 3 names. They were Tidal Wave because it had that significance of something big. You know, and when I really started this Kulcha Shok, it was more about like being a sound system, a DJ collective, right? A DJ group. So Tidal Wave had, you know, in like Jamaica, all the sound systems have like these kind of big, tough, like, you know, Kilimanjaro and, you know, these like very heavy names. And I was like, you know, and then Tidal Wave kind of was like, yeah, you know, but it's got that tidal wave, so it's got that undertone of surfing, you know. And the other one was Easy Star because at that time when I formed it in '96, but at that time I was contemplating Easy Star because that we'd be like, yo, Easy Star. It was just like a slang we had at the time. And then there was Kulcha Shok. So I see this little flyer pinned up in this record store, this Jamaican record store, and it says, oh, the Southwest #1 sound, Tidal Wave. And I'm like, all right, that name's gone, right? So they're actually still around, but they're kind of more of a local sound in the southern part of Miami, right? And then it was like one day I'm coming back from New York on a trip, and in Miami International Airport, I see this sticker with a red, yellow, and green bar, and it says in black, Easy Star. And I'm like, all right, that one's gone.
Oh, no.
Right?
Oh, my God.
So I go through the legalities of registering Kulcha Shok. So, you know, I look up CULTURESHOK, and there's already one there. And I'm like, what? Okay. So I was like, I got to spell it completely different. And so that's where culture came from, the spelling, because that's kind of more Jamaican spelling. And then because I was spelling culture different, I was like, all right, I'm going to just take out the C and I'm going to spell music. And I added music and I'm going to spell it all different. And I went incorporated. Right. So, you know, you have to put the bylaws and the purpose of the thing and everything, you know, and we basically put, we're a sound system, collective DJs, you know, and, you know, there was a little bit more, but it was basically about promoting reggae, right? So it turns out this Kulcha Shok Incorporated was a t-shirt company, and they started doing shows, right? And they actually hired me as an MC, and it was the first big show I ever did in the Bahamas. And the radio station I was at on the time in the Bahamas was a Jamaican station, an AM Caribbean station. It was the first one in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And they could hear us in the Bahamas, right?
Wow.
And so I go over there to introduce, and I'm like going to introduce Barrington Levy, which was like a dream. That guy's like got a voice like butter, right? And so then I'm like kind of like stood behind the speakers before I came out, just kind of like hype up the crowd a little bit. like yeah. And then I come out and the whole place goes, oh my, like they went, oh, like they were shocked that I was a white guy. So it ends up, the reason I'm telling you this is these guys got into concert promotion and ended up going out of business. And I continued and then eventually still was, got into concert business too, but I kind of got into the t-shirt thing too. It was just kind of weird. Right. You know what I mean? It was like, what happened here?
That's crazy.
But that's how the name came about. And I don't even know where Kulcha Shok came from, where the initial idea, but later I came to find out that there was another sound system named Kulcha Shok Reality Music, and they were from the Bahamas. Oh and they're still around. They're still around to this day. But he spelled it more traditional,
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of the story behind it. It actually has a kind of interesting story.
Mm-hmm. It's always fun. The Kulcha Shok like sound system is like watching right now. They're like, curse you, lads! We'll never forgive you.
No, he's a cool guy, That's pretty cool. And I was like, look, I'm sorry, man. I've already incorporated. I ain't turning back now. I went through 3 names and that's it. It's like, but I went through that with something else too, but we won't go there.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the entire time when I was because I set up all of the live streams and all the events. I was like every single time like when I did a flyer and stuff, I was so stressed about like messing up like the name and like the spelling and stuff.
Yeah,
because my full name is Veronika with a K, and people like mistake my name for Victoria, for like Vanessa and other stuff, and like that's always been like a pet peeve when people like misspell my names. I'm like, Lance is gonna like hate me if I like say music with a C instead of a K, and I'm like a C.
It happens every day. Just you can go do hashtags on Instagram alone and just see like literally like 20 different spellings.
You're like, that's not me, buddy.
Yeah. But whatever, it's definitely, from a business perspective, and doing, and with the prevalence of the internet, the way I did it is, I would probably not do it again. I made the journey a little tougher than it needed to be, but it, the branding was definitely harder, because of the spelling, and it really, the thing that really kind of make it stood out to what it most likely was always the color coordination,
Mm-hmm.
the red, yellow, green.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like similar to us, it's not after hours review; it's the after hours review. And like even to this day, I think I've been on this for like what 2-3 years, and I'm just like I can't say after hours review. It's the after hours review.
Yeah.
For like everything. So like I totally get it. It's not as complicated as Kulcha Shok Muzik, but
yeah.
That's awesome.
So before you said you weren't the biggest fan of like the rapping in reggae, and I feel like in the current, well, at least the current American reggae scene, that's pretty prevalent. So I'm curious to know your opinions on the current reggae scene.
Well, okay, let's maybe we need to get a little more specific.
Dan is like trying to start some controversy over here.
Yeah, no. But just to get some clarity. Jesse's style is more rapping, right? Now he has that traditional rap flow. Now you can categorize rap, it can be very broad. What I'm talking about is Jesse in particular style, that type of rapping. That to me is the traditional foundation style of rapping when rap came around. You know, I mean, you can take it back to, you know, back to the old school, but you know, I'm a huge fan of hip hop.
Okay.
Okay? Especially the 80s to early 90s, you know, and yeah, they were rappers, but the rappers didn't really come in really rapping that I know it as really didn't come in until the 90s. You know, you have to remember, you know, there's Tongue Twister, you know, world record holder for the speed rapping. You know, that is kind of obviously an exaggeration of it, but that is more the style I'm talking about. When you're kind of rapping, so to speak, there are people that have, you know, there's so many different styles in the Jamaican music. They kind of call them more sing jays. It's almost like a combination of singing and DJing slash rapping. You know, so it's like, you know, I don't even know the modern rappers anymore. You know, I mean, I do some of them, but you know, you have to, you know, you can't compare, say Talib with Kodak Black. Yeah, they're
Right.
both rappers, but they're completely different.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean? And what I'm talking about is more the Kodak Black style. Understand?
Like, right.
Whereas Talib is more foundation
Yeah.
style, traditional. You know, that's what I'm getting at as far as rapping. I don't hear too many Americans as far as in the reggae rock scene do that form of rapping.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at? Like
Yeah.
I mean, just because I mentioned them, the only two that really come to my mind are the two that I like, which is the late ones and Oogie Wawa. I mean, I'm sure there's others that are just not coming to mind right now. You know, I don't know if you have anybody in particular you were thinking about or that you might throw out there, you know.
No one really particular.
Okay.
The only one that I can think of is Nonstop to Cairo, but they're more like ska. So
What's their name?
Nonstop to Cairo, but they're not necessarily reggae. They have like reggae, some reggae elements in some of their songs, but they're not like true like
Okay.
to the like that's not their genre. They're more ska, but
Okay.
their front MC August has like that kind of like flow, the like kind of like traditional rap flow. So
Yeah,
like,
do you guys remember? I mean, do you remember when Lionel was the front guy? They had a duo that he was one of the front guys at one point when the Toasters probably were the best outfit that I'd ever seen, and they were also putting out the best music at that time.
Right.
You remember Lionel? There was a black guy and a white guy.
Yeah.
And Lionel was Jamaican, but he had a little bit of that rapping style, you know, but they were definitely more ska. You know, that's Toasters pretty much, you know, they're pretty much second wave,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So that's the only one that I can think of now that when you mentioned the ska thing, that's kind of came to my mind, you know, because one of their greatest albums was Skaboom, Pool Shark and all those great songs on there. And, you know, and that's when I was really into them, you know, but I don't know if I'm steering away from the question. You know, you'll hear kind of everybody throw down a little bit of a rap, so to speak.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you've heard Jason Mraz, Look for the Good. He did an all reggae album and he actually does a rap on that thing. And it's kind of crazy. And he does it in, I don't know I can't remember what it's called, but he like double raps. He'll say the jack, you know, it's like he doubles up on everything.
Okay.
It's kind of it's that song. I don't know. I couldn't absorb that song. Like as many times as I tried to listen to it, it was just, you know, it didn't work for me. I mean, there's definitely talent and ability there, but it just didn't strike me, you know?
Yeah.
Even the album was great. I was hoping he was going to take reggae to the mainstream, you know, to the pop world, but it didn't really happen.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting because I literally haven't I know Jason Mraz, but I didn't realize he also released a reggae album. I was like, oh, that's interesting for like what he's done before. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So
Yeah, it was. I was, I'd heard about it, and I was very curious to hear it. And what happened was, I guess he had contacted the Easy Star All Stars,
Okay.
and they produced the album with all their players. They did a great job. I mean, hands down, they did a great job. Like, another one that exceeded expectations. It's definitely worth listening to. It ended up, for me, it was probably, I gave it for, I do a weekly blog and a weekly podcast called Shockwave. And at the end of the year, I do a best of. And we gave that the best reggae pop album of the year.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was impressive,
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change a little bit just because you had mentioned Pool Shark before.
Yeah.
Think of Sublime and the house that Bradley built that was just released. I was curious. Did you listen to that at all? What are your thoughts on the album?
I have not listened to it fully, but I mean, the concept alone is great, and it's like the only drawback I see on it is why didn't they do this sooner?
Right.
Bradley has been gone for what, 20, almost 30 years, coming up on, close to 30 years, like 25 plus years.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, it's an interesting delay to just have. Yeah.
but we don't know what's going on in their heads. That's the family, and maybe it's taken them this long to really get to this point. Who knows? I think it's great that Law got behind it, and and it's interesting on some of the songs that some of the artists did I wouldn't have expected, and everything I've heard so far has been great. There's even I can't remember their names right now, but there were one or two artists I'd never heard of, which is always nice. And it's nice to hear people's take on Sublime stuff, and and I think it has a major other significance in my opinion, because pretty much everybody that is on that album is probably a product of that band.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, those guys, in my opinion, especially in the reggae world, do not get enough props because they basically created a new subgenre of reggae. In the last 10 years, that style of reggae has gone, from a business standpoint, it's more successful than traditional reggae, because these guys, most of these bands are, how would I put it, a bit more professional in their approach and doing what needs to be done, and treating it like strictly as, a lot of, like, for instance, I could tell you, say, Fortunate Youth, Tribal Seeds, Revolution, all these bands used to come to Florida, and I can remember what some of them were getting $500.
Right.
You understand? And they just kept coming back, driving across, and the next thing you know, they're flying. You know what I mean? And it's like, these guys are putting in the work. You know what I mean? I mean, nowadays, for the artists, you really got to get out there. That's the only way to do it. And not everybody's able to do that. People got families, people got, they don't want to give up their other job, or maybe they're scared to, and understandably, but I've seen these guys just grind it out. And, it's what's got to be done, because, most of them are coming from the West Coast, at least in the beginning. Now we have our share over here on the East Side, and there's becoming a little bit more of a balance, so to speak, at least, on the shows. And, so it's like, I think a lot of this has to be credited to Sublime for really putting it out there like that, And another thing, and on the flip side, Sublime, one thing that a lot of people didn't realize is they were using traditional Jamaican bass lines. And, they took Half Pint songs, they took Barrington Levy songs, they took Don Carlos songs.
Mhm.
But what I liked was, that they gave them props, but the guys who really did it proper is Slightly Stupid. Slightly Stupid when, as much as they wanted Long Beach Dub All-Stars to be that band became Slightly Stupid.
Right.
That kind of like took that place, that took that slot, because they were signed to their record label, and it was just like, Sublime's gone, Slightly Stupid just went through the roof. And I mean, if you know their story, they were basically a high school band and just kind of were grinding it out too and just having fun, and then started like after like their third tour, they were like killing it. You know what I mean? And even with Sublime, I have friends that tell me that's like, yo, I saw Sublime with 30 people in the venue.
Right.
And it's crazy to think, if those guys were still around today, who knows what would have happened, but we can't look at that. We have to love and respect what they've done and the path that they have created for those that are following it. And I think House of Bradley is not only a good tribute to that and to the band, but also for what it's doing. It's like it has a threefold that, that maybe they didn't even mean to do, but it's definitely worth everything that's being put into it and what they want out of it. You know what I mean? I think it's just, it's a great thing all the way around.
Yeah.
100%.
And such a great opportunity for so many bands. I mean, you have a band like Sideways that's
right,
which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. They're very like smaller, up and coming reggae rock band with Law Records. And then you have a band like Save Ferris, who was also on that album, which I thought was awesome that Save Ferris got on there.
Yeah.
So it gives these smaller bands the chance to branch out to such a broader audience that they might not have reached if it wasn't for this. And I don't even think that was really the intention of the album, but like you were saying, it's just nice that there's so many other successes that this album created.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't just like well-known bands, which was like great. It was like a very good like eclectic mix of different musicians too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then mentioning Save Ferris, and I mean they're obviously, they kind of come out of what was they basically, Sublime laid the path, and they just kind of were on that path, like, all in those 90s bands,
Right, the Save Ferris, the No Doubts, all of them.
Yeah, all of them, So it's good somebody like that was on there, because, kind of like just solidifies that what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I meant to ask this before, but we kind of just like just start talk about like different things. And then we mentioned kind of artists that aren't, like as well known and everything, or, deserve a little bit more of a higher pedestal of like knownness, I guess. Do you have that knownness? That's a new word. Do you have any artists, whether it's within your area or just kind of what you kind of stumbled upon, any artists that you feel deserve a lot more recognition than they currently are?
Oh man, there's a lot of them.
Or like anything that stands out. I know, like I have like a laundry list of artists that I can shout out.
I mean, one that I think most people are getting onto, but are still a great band, is the Skints. I love that band. Oh my God, do I love that band. I mean, their Learn to Swim is just such a great album, and I can't stop playing it, from Restless to Learn to Swim to, Friend. And they're just, they have this seamlessness on that album with going from reggae to punk. And it's just amazing. And that, to me, for me in 2020, that was the song of the year for me. That was the album of the year for me. That was the band of the year for me. But they're definitely on most people's radar now. A year ago, they weren't. They were just starting to get on some people's radar. But there's another, like this band. Have you guys ever heard of Death of Guitar Pop?
No.
No. Okay. Well, if you like the two-tone stuff, these guys are from Coventry, and they have a new album coming out, but it's going to be their second album. And these guys are just, they remind me of the Specials. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
They remind me of the Specials very much. They're great. Like I said, like you guys know, we just always digging and looking. That's something on that front. The Skints and them, I kind of feel like are somewhat similar. Skints have definitely gone a little more reggae. When they kind of started, they were kind of like, think of like, I don't know if you guys know the song Bright Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of, I guess that was maybe a little more two-tone-ish, ska, almost, maybe a little bit of punk edge in there. But now they seem like they're going more reggae. But they do a great job, and like the 3 and 4 piece harmonies just are banging. Some of the others, like Kez Namdi is a great one out of Jamaica. He's definitely popping up. I see the Rolling Stone interview with him for his album Skyline, which is a great album. I don't think he's getting enough. He's getting there, but it's a little slow. Like say for instance, like somebody like Kabaka Pyramid, he's blowing up. And Kiznamdi's kind of been around longer than him, just in comparison.
Right.
But Kabaka's all due respect. He's got the talent. He's just his mediums have worked better for him. There's a new guy called Jerome who won a contest in Jamaica called Rising Stars, which is like America's Got Talent or one of those things. He won that. He's great. Want to talk about reggae rock? There's a group out of Colorado called Styley, and most of their handle is called Styley Vibes.
Yep.
They're a great one. Venice Beach Dub Club out of LA, is another one that I really liked. I really liked their production on their album. Speaking of Long Beach Dub All Stars, I think they put out one of their best albums ever.
Absolutely.
And their new one, I love Tell Me, and and like with albums like that, especially the Venice Beach Dub Club and Long Beach Dub All Stars, and like a couple of albums. There's like they're so good. It's like, what song do I play?
Yeah.
How do I pick one? Not there's like 5 good songs, 5 pretty good songs, and the rest of them are just good. And you're like, out of those 5 or 6, you're like, what do I play? It was like, which one? And they're not really pushing one of those as a single, and you're like, well, okay, here we go. I'll take this one. I mean, I can go on and on if you want me to, and I can go into all different genres and subgenres and what have you. There's a couple like Kushites is from Trinidad, and she literally only has 3 songs out, and there's this one song that's like become an anthem for me. Bless My Soul, and people like go crazy every time I play it, and a girl named Snooks, she's from St. Vincent. She's only got a couple songs out. Just because you don't know the traditional reggae, it's okay, because 90% of the world doesn't know either one of these two. Okay, so don't feel like you guys are out of the loop or anything, because I mean, even my DJs don't even know these guys, and these guys are all about reggae. They don't even go as deep into other stuff as I do. I can keep going. It's just
okay. I'm literally the same way. I'm like, have you guys heard of Bunktown Falls? Have you guys heard of Audic Empire? They're great. Like, listen, yeah. They're like, Veronika, shut up.
Audic Empire actually just contacted me.
What happened?
Oh, cool.
Audic Empire did just contact me.
Yeah, they're great. They actually went. This was. Oh God, it's so weird to think about like live shows and like how it's been like so long. But they visited us in Long Beach in Long Island. They were playing with Bunktown Falls. They work really well. They work really well together. It was a great show. It was a nice little like intimate show, and it was awesome. But no, they're
exactly what they reached out about, was trying to get them some shows. But I don't know them well enough, and they only needed like one more show. And so I haven't really sat down and spent the time. because I think they're trying to come to Florida. It looked like they had like 4 shows and they needed one more. Looked like you could kind of see that they had sent messages out for Texas, and it looks like they got Texas solidified, and now they're trying Florida, and kind of it didn't directly come from them, but it got forwarded from 2 different people. So, but I mean, what is their sound? They, from what I remember, they sound a little more rock than
that. I would say the same thing about Bangtan Falls. It's like they're definitely not traditional reggae, but it's a nice little like, kind of like how Ugiwawa isn't like traditional reggae. They have like a nice little like flavor that makes them unique. It's the same thing with Audic Empire, like really like reggae rock, but that people can resonate with. So that's
I mean, I thought I probably heard some of their earlier stuff, but the stuff that I heard, you could categorize it as reggae rock, but in my opinion, it seemed like it leaned much more towards the rock side.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes a little edgier, harder. Not super hard like Nil or anything, but
Yeah, it's not like it's not like punk rock or anything, but yeah.
Just
definitely an after hours recommendation, at least for us. 100%.
Nice.
So going on shows, I know with COVID and everything, a lot of stuff is still up in the air, but do you have any shows coming up? I know looking through the website, we saw Reggae Sundays, we saw Reggae Rise Up. Do you have anything that's confirmed coming up soon?
100%. Yeah, we do have January. The last Sunday of every month is a monthly Reggae Sundays we're doing at a little taco shop in Southwest Kendall, Southwest Miami, and we did 2 other events with them, and then they were like, oh, we kind of want to maybe start a monthly. So, it's they've got like an open patio area. It was a little bit different of a vibe for us, but it went over really well. The staff is great. Everybody was super stoked on it. They were sitting down, so you couldn't always really, they had their crowd, and our crowd was like behind us and kind of like, vibing out, and they were all just kind of sitting there, but they all said they had a great time. We got that, and that's a monthly, every last Sunday. We're working on a couple other things. There's 2 shows that are confirmed that I haven't really been announced that I can't say, unfortunately. I don't want to be the bad guy, but they're definitely 2 shows. I would say you'll want to go to, especially if you're any kind of a reggae fan. They're both good shows, and one's coming up in next month and one's in March. And then Reggae Rise Up is, it's been announced since last year, and we basically just left it up there and just swapped out the flyers. So they basically got the same lineup. I think there was like 1 or 2 changes as last year as far as lineups are concerned. But that's the only ones that we can actually mention. So, but there is a lot of stuff in the works, and but that's always the case. That's nothing new. So I just stay tuned.
Basically, follow your pages, because stay tuned for more and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get it out there as soon as we're able to.
So how did you get involved with Reggae Rise Up? Because I know, so I'm not too familiar with the internal structure of Reggae Rise Up. I know that they're all over the country and they have different ones in different states. But that's about the extent of my knowledge to Reggae Rise Up.
Well, here, I'll explain it to you real quick, and this might be good information for John Public out there. They're basically from Utah. So that's where it started, was Reggae Rise Up they're just south of Park City. I think what they saw with Utah was it's well supported, and it's a great vibe. It's a little bit smaller it's considerably smaller than Florida, but it's the foundation of what they've been doing and who they are. And I don't know the story about them going into St. Pete, but I can tell you, and you can see by the success of it, that what they did, the first show had Kali Buzz as a headliner. He was the only real headliner on that show. In the rain, they got 1,000 people. That was the first show. Second show, they got 2,500. Third show, they got 5,000. Fourth show, they almost hit 10,000. Fifth show, they saw 20,000 people.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that just shows you that they're filling a gap that is needed.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, I got involved. One of my DJs, he's based in Orlando. He was on the first show, and then they contacted me. I guess like he hadn't heard from him, so I said, "Look, I'm going to contact him. I'll let him know." And they had me work the show. They had me DJ. But I can tell that that organization doesn't particularly like MCs or DJs. I don't know the reason why, but that's kind of how I got involved. And by that time, I DJ'd, I think I've DJ'd 3 years, and I've been there all but the first and second one. So maybe it's been 6. So anyway, but because it's so successful now, I just go there and represent my brand.
Right.
And, Florida's, my market. And so I do well there. And, and it's a great show. They do a great job. And it's definitely the biggest reggae festival in Florida now. The 9 Mile Music Festival was the biggest. Was formerly the Bob Marley Festival in Miami. They took off in 2020 because of the pandemic. And 2019, they actually took off on their own and were supposed to come back in 2020. And they normally have it, around anywhere from February to April. And I've not heard a word about it. I think they're probably holding out, but they've been going for 25 years. And
Wow.
I've been working it for 20. So it's like, going back to the original thing but that's kind of how, through my other DJ, it's kind of how I sort of got in. And then another guy who I knew from that area, Adam, who used to do a lot of reggae and reggae rock shows at Janice Landy. He was working with them, and Reggae Rise Up kind of picked him up, and he's doing a lot of their marketing. And he kind of also helped me, because we knew each other and had worked together, and he kind of also helped get me in as well. So,
Cool.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Just, you've been like all over the place. That's like awesome and inspiring and great.
Yeah, I've worked really hard to get where I'm at. The thing is, I still have big dreams and big goals.
Mhm.
I've not reached anywhere I want to, and I've been doing this since I was 17, and I'll be doing this till I die. And I hopefully, it's always nice to reach new pinnacles and new achievements, and reach some of your goals. I would love to try and do more in the U.S. and just do more as a whole. I would love to be out there every weekend, and I, on a bigger level. But I pretty much am. Like when things before the pandemic, it was pretty much every weekend I was doing something somewhere. Regardless, I always had my Sundays. I want to take reggae to every corner that I can.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, let's see. So didn't mean to like cut you off there, but like I thought that was like super inspiring. To just like I want to take reggae to the next level.
Yeah.
I always have, and that's one of the things that I saw early on was, and it's on the surface, it's a lack of professionalism, but underneath, really, what it is, it's a lack of knowledge. It turned out to be, it's like I was seeing a lot of these artists getting ripped off, and so I started a music publishing company for all my productions, because I also produce, and that's really just an extension of my love for it. And then what happened was, you know, I just I went to attorneys and I did it the right way, and got the foundation, and now I don't really have to go to attorneys so much for stuff. But and I don't really like going to attorneys, to be honest. But I did it right from the beginning. I incorporated. I got copyrights. I got registrations, and I did it. And that's all said and done. And now I can kind of move on and handle the business, you know, a different way, more my style, but still keep it legal. So it is.
Right.
That's what I kind of saw in the beginning, and that's why I kind of went a little bit more on the business side, and was part of the reason, because I was doing a lot of stuff as Lanso, and then I kind of did the incorporation and everything to kind of take it off of me and put it to the business. I was tired of getting personal checks, and I just said, this is, if you're gonna live in America, you got to play their game, and so I'm just playing their game, and I tell you, I'm beating them at their own game.
That's awesome. Well, listen, Lance, you've been on with us for an hour and 10 minutes. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your passion and everything. It's been awesome. It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Inspiring. It's really, really inspired me to I want to just go start doing stuff right now. I wish it wasn't. I want to just get up and go.
Well, good. I seem to have that effect on people, but I'm glad I do, because I can't do it by myself. None of us can. I'm always trying to recruit more soldiers for the reggae fraternity, to bring into the brotherhood. And one last quick thing I'll tell you is, what I have a 10-year-old who's walking in the room right now, but you can't see him. You don't have to duck, Bodie. They can't see you. But when I had him, I didn't second guess. I questioned, am I doing the right thing in life? Is this going to continue to be my breadwinner?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this. I said, you know what? I'm just going to sit on it, gnaw on it for a week. That week, my phone rang more still to this day than it ever has. So I took that as a sign, and I said, I'm doing the right thing. And then when he came around, he just brought me more blessings.
Okay.
He brought me more blessings, because what I was making then was barely enough for me. But I'm a soldier. I don't need much. I'm not fussy. I don't need the best things in life. If I got a t-shirt and a pair of baggies, I'm good, right? But I wanted to be able to provide for my son. And him coming into this earth, blessed to be even more than I already am. So that really told me that this is my destiny. Even in this pandemic, you have to think, is there something else I can do? Of course there is, but there's nothing else I'd rather do. And I'm going to stick it out through high, hello water.
Damn. Dude, everything you're saying is just it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of joining the
welcome in their pandemic, you know what I'm saying?
Speaking of joining the reggae movement and the Soldier and Army stuff, how can people get involved with Culture Shock and the movement that you've inspired and excited?
Well, they can just email us, and and they can even do it wherever they are. You know what I mean? It's more, I think more people have more of an effect if they do it where they live, because they know their surroundings, they know their environment. Yeah, you can help spread the Culture Shock vibe, and we would be grateful for that. But it's bigger than that for me, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about reggae. Reggae is bigger than all of us. And, if you just promote what's in your town or coming to your town or what's around there or the surrounding areas, you know, and, you know, we will gladly bring anybody on, you know, and we do stuff that can relate to other markets, you know, and there's, you know, now the street promotions isn't as strong as it used to be. And it's pretty much dead right now because I've been doing street promotions for, you know, a solid 15, 20 years. And I have a street promotions route that I have tweaked and formulated over those 20 years. And I have personal relationships with each and every one of those business owners, you know, so you know, like I said, I don't think it's more, if they want to be a part of Culture Shock, no, we would love it. You know, I think it's more about wherever you are in this world. And if reggae is what you want to promote the reggae that's there. Because we have tons of bands down here. We have great reggae bands that should be national and should be international. Jaffe, Job Movement, Brothers United, Bradley Brown. There's tons of bands. I mean, these are like top-notch bands, like great musicians. I mean, just there's not a flaw there.
Right.
You know, but it's like build what you have and people will come. You know, you may only have Johnny and the Stick Buds down the street, but if you got one band, support them. And when it starts to build, you'll see Oogie Wawa and you'll see Stick Figure and you'll see Tribal Seeds come knocking on the door because they want to tap into that market too. You know, that's how it works. And you know, I've been digging trenches in the South Florida market for 30 something years, and I'm like, it's nowhere near where I want it to be. And Miami's supposed to be one of the best ones in the country, and it's nowhere near where it should be, especially with the West Indian influence and, you know, and the support. But it's a tough business. You have to love it. You have to love it because it's a lot of work with little reward, and it's the music business. You're gonna get bent over and reamed a couple times.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I love it. They can screw me as much as they want. They can't get me out though.
There you go. And like look, and Culture Shock's been thriving for like years and decades now, so it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for the most part, I think it always looks a little better than it is. But you know, hey, that's perception. I guess is part of the game.
Yeah. It definitely is.
You know, but it's been good to me. I have no complaints. You know, I have no complaints. It's definitely been a struggle, but it's been worth every bit of it. I have no regrets.
That's awesome. Oh, Dan, I thought you were going to do the closing remarks, but I guess not.
I will. Sure.
So, I was like,
I thought you were about to, so I was like, all right, you got it.
okay.
Lance, seriously, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. It's extremely appreciated. We heard really, really, really positive things about you from our friends in Oogie Wawa a few months back, and I think I reached out to you like a day later, and I'm so glad I did. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. And if there's anything I can do for you guys or, you know, whatever, I like to put it in the other person's hands. That way I know they're happy.
Absolutely. Oh, and Oogie's still in here. Look at them with the hearts.
Look at that.
Yes, Oogie.
Follow Kulcha Shok Muzik on all their social media, and we'll be seeing you next time. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Bye.